My grandfather, Louis Cohn, was one of the founders of the Great Rumänische Schule, and he was the first president of the shul. My father and my uncles all became bar mitzvah here.
This synagogue, which we knew it as Papi's Shul, which was the Romanian society, was the center of our lives as children, our religious lives. Papi, who was a plumber, spent most of his time here at the shul, and when I was old enough, he brought me down here in his 1951 blue Chevrolet with his plumbing tools in the back, and he would always wash his hands and make sure he had on a white shirt when he came in. He'd take me, usually with a bag of tools or some supplies for the synagogue, because every ounce of extra money that he made, he would pour into the shul.
Because the kippah is very, very. That's a kippah. It was the
It's more like a hat.
but it was traditional for the cantors to wear that and for the rabbis to wear that in this kind of a synagogue.
It was an honor to be able to wear a yarmulke like that, and I don't know whether I really deserved it. You're supposed to have been very learned and have been given, in the old days before the seminaries had cantorial schools, you were given semicha by the rabbis or by a group.
In the early 70s, there was a lot of need to rebuild the building. I mean, the building was in dire straits. It was falling apart. We had to actually declare it unsafe at one point. And as a way to get people to rally round, we needed 18 families to come forth and contribute, an enormous sum of $1,000 a family. And 18 families stood up and gave $1,000 each, which was the beginning of the new life. And we got 18,000 in about 18 minutes, literally on a Sunday evening meeting where people said, we have to save the synagogue.
These walls are the most beautiful, naif murals of biblical tales, one of which, the walls, as you know, are peeling pink paint. The interesting story about those murals is when we had one of the Midi fairs, which was a fundraiser, a woman who lived in the neighborhood came up to me and started talking, and she said, you know, the murals in the synagogue, she said, my husband, who was a house painter, painted those.
And when we came here, we felt we were very welcome, and we felt part of a family. I had never had an aliyah before. I'd never been on a beamer before. And I had trepidation. Yeah, because of my religious Orthodox background. But I quickly got used to it, and we've been attending service nearly every Saturday, Shabbos, ever since then.
One of the most important events, I think, was removing the paintings on the green background.
The murals.
The murals, which were atrocious.
And the seats were just plain seats with loose cushions which were falling apart. So we helped to get them upholstered. We didn't have carpets at all. And it was pretty. And a big thing was the renovation of the kitchen. The kitchen was a mess. But when it was redone and when we got the extra building, the addition in the back, when that was renovated, and when we got the little chapel, and that was very nice.
It was very common, I think, in those days to have 5 or 10 work parties each year where folks would come here on a Sunday and we'd spend the better part of a Sunday working on the building, you know, in the spaces other than the sanctuary, which had already been redone. And I can't remember the timing exactly, but I remember real well being here on a Sunday working in the old kitchen, which was behind the bima. It was I guess it was a 2-story building. There was an upstairs, but working on trying to basically make the kitchen presentable and putting my foot through the floor. And it literally had just, rotted and given way. And again, I wish I could place the year, but that really was, in many ways, the impetus. I think once my foot went through the floor, we all went and looked and saw what was going on and how the floor was coming apart, and the realization that that back building was on its last legs, that led to the planning for the addition at the back of the building.
My earliest memories of attending the synagogue was at a service downstairs, what is now the lobby. I seem to remember was a small chapel, and I may be incorrect in remembering this, and it was very dark, and we were just sitting around on folding chairs, and it was very unstructured, but there was a great deal of warmth, and you just felt very connected to the people and to the building, and it was very special, and it was so different from what I had grown up with that it was very appealing to us.
When my husband and I moved into Center City, we decided it was kind of foolish to go to a synagogue in West Philly, and there was a wonderful synagogue right across the street, Society Hill Synagogue, and so we joined there, and we were members from then on. The attraction was mainly the fact that it was so convenient. It was just across the street, and I could practically hop out of bed and be in the synagogue in 5 minutes. And I belonged, and I've enjoyed it from that day on. And I especially love Friday night music, the music and the singing and etc.
We enjoyed the midi fairs. They were every year, and like I said, my wife was very active in that. There was something very funny happened one of them. Sal Schoenbach, who was the bassoonist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, was entertaining at the midi fair, and I had Polaroid film, and I was taking pictures for $1.75, to make money. Well, one time after I had taken some pictures of Schoenbach and his family, his son came over and just rested his hand on his shoulder. It was such a beautiful family thing. I took it for myself. But the first thing I knew, while I was busy, somebody came over to the table, grabbed it, and put the money down. And I never did get it.
And that was fun. The nice thing at that time, mid-70s, in the rest of the Jewish world, synagogue presidents were men. And so people outside of this congregation would be anywhere from surprised to startled to aghast to appalled that Society Hill had a woman president. The lovely thing about the congregation is that within this synagogue, it was not a big deal. It was, you're there, you're interested, you're willing, you've been involved, you can be president. And the gender was a non-issue here, even though it was long before the rest of the world saw it that way.
Ivan Kane brought a certain amount of knowledge, a brilliant scholar, a man who was always out there to test your senses of what you didn't know, and you walked away thinking about some of the wonderful examples that he gave. They were thought-provoking, and our services were very, very innovative. We had young rabbis come from the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. We had creative services done by the members. And we were looked upon in the Jewish community as kind of a way out synagogue. And people knew about us. Oh, you belong to Society Hill Synagogue, that cutting edge of synagogues in Philadelphia and America.
And I always had something to learn. So I was eager to hear from people. I can't say that all of the time this was a thoroughly dialogic Devar Torah. Turned out generally, as the years went on, that Friday night was more monologic and Saturday was more dialogic. But I certainly can say that my congregants always had an opportunity to respond and, of course, to teach. The tradition indicates that we have to learn from everyone, and I certainly did. One of the joys of the rabbinate is to hear people teach you things, to hear people make discoveries. And the Socratic method, the maieutic education approach, the midwife approach, is not only attractive, but it's also vital. So if people can say things, if they can give birth to creations, to ideas, to discoveries, and other people in the congregation can be uplifted by that, nothing could be more successful in a Torah message, a Dvar Torah, than that.
I loved Sunday school right from the beginning, and I attribute that mostly to the fact that at the age of 5.5, turning 6, I had a huge crush on one of my teachers who happened to be Rabbi Kane's oldest son, Hanan. But my recollection of Hebrew school was being in class with David, Jimmy, and Nadav.
Undoubtedly, the biggest success is that we have a group of children here who do not hate coming to Hebrew school. If I had my druthers and I could change anything, I would have learning sessions with parents and students together.
So I answered an ad for Society Hill Synagogue in 1984 and was interviewed, and it was really the best thing that ever happened to me and my husband, and I was gainfully employed here for many years, and it changed my life, it changed my family structure, and it certainly brought me back to Judaism, which was a plus.
Once upon a time there was a tavern where we used to raise a glass or two. Remember how we laughed away the hours and dreamed of all the great things we would do. Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose, we'd fight and never lose, for we were young and sure to have our way. Lie, 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 lie. Those were the days. Ah, yes, those were the days. Then the busy years went rushing by us. We lost our starry notions on the way. And if by chance I'd see you in the tavern, we'd smile at one another and we'd say, those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live a life we'd choose, we'd fight and never lose, for we were young and sure to have our way. Lie, 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 lie. Those were the days. Ah, yes, those were the days. Just tonight I stood before the tavern. Nothing was the way it used to be. In the glass I saw a strange reflection. Was that woman really me? Through the door I heard familiar laughter. I saw your face and heard you call my name. Ah, my friend, we're older but no wiser, for in our hearts our dreams are still the same. Those were the days, days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose, we'd fight and never lose, for we were young and sure to have our way. Lie, 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 la, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Those were the days, ah yes, those were the days.